It's Friday, March the 7th, 2014. I'm Mark Chatterley and this is episode number 24 of T.E.N, Transport Evolved News for the week beginning March the 3rd, 2014. Sales of the Nissan Leaf for February this year were up by nearly 120%. This year Nissan sold 1,425 Leafs compared to last year's 772. To put this number into context, more Nissan Leafs were sold than Nissan Cubes, 370Zs, GTRs and both the NV and NV200 trucks. This spike in sales goes a long way to showing why Nissan announced back in January that it was planning to increase US production of the Leaf to as many as 40 or 50,000 cars per year. It all seems to be going really well for the Leaf. Well done, Nissan. Well done, Leaf. But in related news, according to Inside EV's sales figure for Renault ZD range were 46% down in January. This may be expected due to the removal of the Fluence from the Renault's official electric car lineup last November, but looking into the figures a bit more closely shows that sales of the two-seated Twizy and the Renault Kangoo ZE van are also down by 38% and 72% respectively. Thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom. Sales of the Zoe hatchback are 263% higher this year than they were last, but to temper any joy in this fact, we must remind you that the Zoe wasn't available in many markets until the middle of last year, so a big increase was inevitable. But it could be that Renault has some plans to help sales of their ZE range along. According to Voltar, Renault's EV boss Beatrice Fouché is open to the idea of offering existing EV customers battery pack upgrades at some point in the future, extending their car's usefulness well beyond the current normal lifespan of a car. Because the battery packs are leased rather than sold, Renault is in a unique position. As battery technology improves, so too can the battery packs Renault puts in customers' cars, improving the range, reducing the weight and ultimately giving the customer a better car than they originally had. Replacing a car's battery pack with a newer, improved one isn't just a drop-in replacement though. As Fouché told Voltar, other parts of the car would need to be upgraded to make use of the improved battery. The control system would need to be updated to know that there was more capacity in the battery. It's also possible that some of the electronic systems would need to be changed too. But an upgrade is totally possible, which is amazing. Way to go, Renault! A couple of weeks ago, we told you about the UK charging company Chargemaster and their Poland network, and how they were planning to start charging for charging come 1st of April. At the time, they hadn't released any information on how much they were going to charge or what the different tariffs would be. This changed this week when they announced 3 different tariffs to serve everyone from the occasional user to someone who relies on their network for all their electricity. However, they've very quickly come under fire from EV drivers who say that all of their tariffs are far too expensive. In some situations, EV drivers could face paying the same kind of prices as those who drive internal combustion engine cars, and that's with UK petrol prices being around £6 per gallon. The whole costs are too complicated to go into here, as along with different prices for slow, fast and rapid charging, one tariff charges a standard fee monthly, one annually and one just requires online registration. It's worth keeping in mind that on the Washington portion of the West Coast Electric Highway, drivers are set to pay $19.99 per month for unlimited use or $7.50 per quick charge, which is a much simpler system. In related news, Hertz On Demand Vehicle Rental, who have been operating a Leaf rental scheme in Milton Keynes, has said that it may end its trial early due to these costs being introduced by Chargemaster. The introduction of these fees, they say, make their trial financially unviable. The trial was initially meant to run until July this year, but it looks like it may come to an end at the end of this month when the fees come into effect. In the rental scheme, people could rent Nissan Leafs from £5 per hour. Inside the car was a card that allowed them to access all Polar Chargemaster charging stations in the city and around the rest of the country. It will be a big shame if the trial comes to an end early. Does it signal a possible trend that may happen when charging for charging is so expensive? But are there other ways in which electricity can be paid for to ensure that making the switch to EVs is as simple as possible? US company Voltar seems to think so. They are attaching electric vehicle charging stations to large advertising boards. The income from selling the high visibility ads on these boards goes, in part, to paying for the small cost of electricity from drivers plugging in. The advertising boards are large and aimed at passers-by rather than to the driver of the electric vehicles directly. Blink tried something similar before it went bankrupt, but their ads were displayed on small screens or on the charging stations themselves, to be seen by the driver. Essentially, they had charging stations with advertising slots on them. Voltar has advertising billboards with charging stations attached. This really is simple and nice, and I really wish it all the best in the world. After years of testing with various businesses such as IKEA, British Gas, Coca-Cola and FedEx, Nissan has finally unveiled its production spec all-electric ENV200 at the Geneva Motor Show this week. Available either as a commercial panel van or a 5-seat minivan, the ENV200 is based upon Nissan's gasoline-powered NV200 van, but Nissan says has been extensively re-engineered to maximise its efficiency as an electric vehicle. Using the same drivetrain as the Leaf, 24 kilowatt-hour battery with an 80 kilowatt motor, the van outperforms its petrol version in 0 to 60 time, and we believe it will have a real-world range of about 60 to 80 miles, perfect for inner-city deliveries. Interestingly, it seems that the 7-seat variant available in the NV200 hasn't made it over to the electric version, but with no third row of seats, the ENV200 could still be a perfect fit for soccer parents with 3 kids and lots of shopping, maybe even a family pet to fit in. Unlike the Renault Kangoo ZD, which has a similar setup, albeit with Renault's drivetrain, the ENV200 can be rapid charged using CHAdeMO, which is brilliant. Way to go Nissan, again! In 2011, the Nissan Leaf won the title of European Car of the Year. The following year, the Chevrolet Volt and its European sibling, the Vauxhall or Opel Ampera, got the award. And this year, both the BMW i3 and Tesla Model S made it to the shortlist. Brilliant! I mean, one of them had to win, didn't they? Well, no. Despite the best efforts of both cars to impress the judges, the Peugeot 308 has just been crowned 2014 a European Car of the Year. Yes, a fairly bog-standard internal combustion engine car. Brilliant. It seems that having 2 electric cars on the shortlist split the vote. But maybe the BMW i3 will have another shot at it. On the second press day of the Geneva Motor Show, the 3 finalists for the World Green Car of the Year were announced, and the BMW i3 is among them. Fingers crossed for the i3. This week, some pictures emerged of a very interesting looking Model S with various external doodads and doohickeys stuck to it and a weight strapped to the top. But what could it be? A bit of investigating here, some photos from the EV community there, and it seems this is a Model X test mule. Basically a modified Model S to replicate some aspect of the Model X in the real world. The weight having been added to the roof to raise the centre of gravity of the car to simulate the Model X. I still get excited when I see any EV out and about. I'm not sure what my reaction would be if I saw a special trussed-up test mule. Permanent massive EV grin. Yeah, that was just creepy, sorry. And finally, a second driver to come from Nissan's GT Academy program that takes the best players from the PlayStation racing simulator Gran Turismo and puts them into real-world racing training has been confirmed as a driver for the Nissan ZEOD RC in Le Mans this year. The ZEOD RC is a hybrid racing car with delta wing styling. It's powered by a 3-cylinder turbocharged engine that's paired with 2 electric motors. Altogether, they can push the car in exceeds of 300 km per hour. That's more than 185 miles per hour. The car uses regenerative braking to charge up the lithium-ion batteries while racing. Nissan is hoping the car will be able to do 1 whole lap of Le Mans on pure electric power, a feat never achieved before. The best thing about this story? 2 of the people driving this car used to play racing games at home. See, Mum, this is what could have happened if you didn't force me to go outside and get some fresh air. That's it for this week. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode of T.E.N. In the meantime, visit www.transportevolved.com for all the EV news that's fit to print, subscribe to our channel and other shows on YouTube, and check out Transport Evolved on Sunday, where we'll be releasing a special pre-recorded version of our usual Sunday show discussing these stories and others on Transport Evolved. Nikki's away at an EV meet and I'm seeing the in-laws, so sorry about that. Until next time, stay juiced up! Oh, why am I getting worse as I go along? That's like the opposite of what should be happening. And I've missed my cue.